Griswold vs. Connecticut by Ashley Skay. My 6-word summary on this topic is court case debated on birth control. Along with Griswold and Connecticut, there were 4 other cases in the Supreme Court at the time: Snyder vs. Massachusetts, Martin vs. Strothers, Wayman vs. Updegraff, and NAACP vs. Alabama. 2 and 3 both deal with freedom of the press and freedom of speech. Along with this, it gave you the right to distribute and receive and read anything you wanted to. 1 and 4 have to do with the Due Process Clause, which is basically all the rights that citizens in the U.S. are guaranteed. The Griswold and Connecticut case first came about from a law enacted in 1879 by the state of Connecticut. Any person who used any drug, medicinal article, or instrument for the purpose of preventing conception shall be fined no less than $40 or imprisoned no less than 60 days. The law was first challenged in 1943 in the Tiltiston v. Ullman case, then again in the Poe v. Ullman case. Both of these cases were unsuccessful. It wasn't until Griswold v. Connecticut case where the law was finally annulled. Estelle Griswold, who was the executive director of Planned Parenthood League of Connecticut, and Dr. Seeley Buxton, who was a professor at Yale School of Medicine, both worked to create a clinic where they provided birth control counseling to married women. It all began in 1961 when Griswold and Buxton challenged the law by opening a birth control clinic in New Haven, Connecticut. After their establishment was open, the police raided the facility and arrested and charged each person with $100. That may not seem like much, but back then, that would be equal to $750. Once Buxton and Griswold were arrested, they came to the conclusion that the law was unconstitutional. This law was violating many laws, but one in particular was the 14th Amendment. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Due to the breaking of this amendment, Griswold appealed to the Supreme Court of Connecticut. After their case with the highest court system in Connecticut, which is the Supreme Court of Connecticut, the court upheld their case, pushing Griswold and Buxton to bring their case to the U.S. Supreme Court. On June 7, 1965, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Griswold by 7-2. The ruling came from Justice William O. Douglas. He ruled that the law violated the right to marital privacy and that it could not be enforced against married people, which was in violation of the 4th and 5th Amendments. These amendments essentially protect an individual's private life and home from government intersection. Altogether, the Connecticut law was in full violation of privacy rights. Justice Arthur Goldberg argued that the 9th Amendment, which states that the Bill of Rights does not exhaust all rights contained by the people, allows the court to find that the fundamental right to marital privacy without having to ground it in a specific constitutional amendment. The Connecticut law was then invalidated, and the citizens of Connecticut were permitted to use birth control. Griswold v. Connecticut is an important decision for several reasons. First, the court established a general constitutional right to privacy when the word privacy never appears in the Bill of Rights. The decision established the principle that there are implied rights within the Bill of Rights. Second, it is one of the only Supreme Court decisions to interpret the 9th Amendment and its notion of unenumerated rights. Finally, Griswold v. Connecticut is important to understand for supporters and opponents alike because it was the key precedent for the Burger Court to later hold in Roe v. Wade, 1973, that the right of privacy included a woman's right to choose whether or not to have an abortion. The debate about birth control sometimes misses the essential point, that making it available and affordable meant people could make smart decisions about whether and when to have children. That freedom meant brighter futures for whole generations of Americans and their children, according to new research. Contraceptives and family planning helped boost college completion, labor force participation, wages, and family income for children of parents who had access. Here are a few reasons why contraception and family planning can boost outcomes for children. Unwanted and ill-timed childbearing is reduced. The price of avoiding or delaying children is reduced, so more parents will choose to do so. Family size decreases, so more parental time and resources can be invested in each child. Delaying parenthood is easier, allowing parents to invest in their own education or job security, boosting income and outcome in the long run. Marriage is more easily delayed, potentially leading to better spouse choices and fewer divorce. It helps poor families in particular, and they may choose to delay or avoid having children. The results are pretty significant. Increased access to family planning is linked to 2% to 3% higher adult incomes for children born as contraception become more common. College completion increased by 2% to 7% for children whose mothers had access to family planning. This is why the Griswold v. Connecticut case was so significant to future outcomes. To help Griswold in her court case, Margaret Sanger has her mouth taped to show her freedom of speech being taken away, as you can see in this picture.